Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Osayome Sale, and we have a very, very full house today. Happy to be inviting Milola back, Honorable. Honorable is back on the seat beside the Honorable amid the political drama happening. But we thank you so much for honoring our invitation.
Yo.
Honorably. We're happy to have you back. And we have Jenny, baby.
We missed you.
How is Abuja? So I told Jennifer she cannot come back without...
No, we have to have you back.
No, you don't even get... She cannot return to Lagos without links to the senatorial seats. It's not possible. It's either by marriage or by...
That's the mandate. So better.
I hope you can.
You take a cue. You take a cue.
How are you, Jennifer?
I'm fine.
How was South Africa? How's Abuja?
South Africa was fine, but it was very annoying because it was raining all through and it was so cold. So worst time to have actually traveled.
Wow.
But Abuja has been good.
Abuja is hot.
I'm happy. There's no traffic. Yes, it's very hot.
Unlike Lagos.
Very, very hot. Very hot. But we're surviving. We thank God.
You look pretty.
Thank you.
I miss you.
You do miss me.
No, nah.
Milola Tiwa.
Honorable, how have you been though?
I'm good.
I've been watching your page, Omo. I do not envy you, honestly.
I do not envy myself.
Honestly, it's been a tough move. Even me watching it, like I feel the stress, and it's really telling. But how is it going though?
I wouldn't lie, it's not been easy. It's been tough. It's a lot of emotion, but I'm keeping on together. When you know that it's too late to turn back, what do? You just keep it going.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what it is.
Absolutely. How about you, Nama? How are you? How was your day?
It was good. It was very peaceful.
You look peaceful. You look chill.
Eid Mubarak.
Ew, it's not
In the spirit of Eid, anytime you see me glamorously dressed, you know that Honorable is around.
Is around. Online.
Thank you. I love my dress. It's really pretty. All right, so today we're discussing something very interesting, and that's why we have our Honorable with us. You know how forms are being sold to different candidates that are aspiring to take on political positions, and it seems like, when it comes to women and the youth, there's a bit of disparity, or they'll say maybe they are favoring them. I put the quote, So how they sell forms, for women at a completely different price, discounted price compared to their male counterparts. So the question we're asking today, is this a plus for women, or it's going to really, mar their political relevance, right? That's the conversation. And here's what we found as today's quote. There needs to be a fundamental shift in the way societies view women in government. One that does not see them as mere seat fillers or stats on a chart. They must be viewed as a vital contributing factor to the betterment of the world. I think there was no better quote than capturing this conversation.
Quite
yes,
apt.
We're not seat fillers. We're not just there to just fill up a quota. We're actually going to be decision makers. We're going to be transformers, in any government as women.
In the real sense.
Yes, so that's the conversation. So according to Premium Times, the All Progressive Congress, APC, at a meeting of its National Executive Committee announced the fee for its expression of interest and nomination form for the 2023 general elections last month. Now, the fees include 100 million for presidential aspirants, made up of 30 million for expression of interest and 70 million for the actual nomination form. So the party also fixed 50 million for governorship aspirants, 20 million and 10 million for senatorial and House of Representative aspirants respectively, and 2 million for State House of Assembly aspirants. So, however, aspirants under 40 years will get a 50% discount on the fees, while women and persons living with disability will only pay for expression of interest form. So it's our ladies' night out. Jennifer, Nama, and Honorable Milola and I will be discussing form cost reduction. Is it a plus or a plot to weaken women's political relevance? That's the conversation. And when we open our phone lines, we'd really love to hear what you have to say. But first, let's take a break to see what we found in the news. All right, you're still watching Ways. The United Nations General Assembly declared May 3rd to be World Press Freedom Day, or just World Press Day, observed to raise awareness of the importance of freedom of press and remind governments of their duty to respect and uphold the rights to freedom of expression as shrined under the Article 19 of the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights and marking the anniversary of the Windhoek Declaration, a statement of free press principle put together by African newspaper journalists in Windhoek in 1991. Every year, World Press Freedom Index was published by Reporters Without Borders. Since 2002, based upon the organization's own assessment of the country's press freedom records in the previous year, it intends to reflect the degree of freedom that journalists, news organizations, and citizens have in each country and the effort made by authorities to respect this freedom. So, world freedom, I think we've done better. We're way better over the years, yeah, from where we're coming from. And it cuts across all parts of the world, but some parts of the world, they still have a lot of press restrictions where you cannot express freely and all of that. But I think we're getting better at allowing people to express.
Social
freely,
media has allowed a lot of freedom of expression,
yeah,
and a lot of abuse of freedom of expression. So
Exactly.
I believe we're quite there.
All right, so let's quickly run through our stories. Let me start with you, Jennifer. What did you find for us in the news?
The Kaduna Monarch suspends 4 district heads over misconduct. So the Emir of Zazzau has suspended 4 district heads for allegedly using local talks. So there is a rule that when there is any event or any occasion, you're not supposed to hire local talks to come with you or to be around you or be at that event, especially when they are holding weapons. So when that happened, he just immediately suspended all 4 of them with immediate effect.
Awesome.
Was that some form of security or a form of, I don't know,
Breach.
why would they have that with them in the first place? Do they use them as security or do they use them to intimidate other people?
Funny enough, I have no idea, but this particular occasion was just the celebration we just did.
Eid?
Yeah, the Eid.
Okay.
So
why
would
really would you need
local
talks
talks?
around
Yeah,
here?
especially with weapons. So it could have been guns, it could have been knives or cutlasses or anything like that.
I remember one year when we traveled, I think it was Jos. They had just finished, it was this exact Salah because it was after the Ramadan season, and we were on our way to the airport from Jos, heading to, I think we had to do a road trip to Abuja because there was no flight or something, I can't remember.
I remember that trip.
You must have seen the big knives they were bringing out from their kaftans, almost. And this was just like gyration, celebration, and all of that. It was not really like it was a fight or something. But just imagine if there was a provocation in the heat of that, because there were a lot of them in those big lorry, the back of the lorries, right? And there were a lot. They were walking, across and all of that. At some point, I had to cover myself because I'm a woman and all of that. I had to hide myself, But I was so scared that day because the kinds of knife that I saw somebody bringing out from his, those long daggers. And the sickle one, the one that it wasn't funny.
And once they start, there's no stopping.
There's no stopping.
Yes.
So I think it's a good move for him too, because you can't really control sometimes. Yeah. Norma, your story.
All right, mine is still in Kaduna, coincidentally.
Okay.
Can dissociate self from Kaduna pastor that is offering 310,000 heaven ticket. Now, I don't know if some of us heard about the pastor that was buzzing in the news last week or thereabouts, but the story goes that the Christian Association of Nigeria in Kaduna State has distanced itself from one pastor. When they add one, that means you're your own. One pastor, Ade Abraham, offering to take his members to heaven if they pay a ticket fee of 310,000. The video went viral, of course, on social media, and he was said to have his operational base in Kaduna and later moved the camp to Ado-Ekiti, where he's presently staying with his members, preparing them for heaven. So the state's CAN chairman, Reverend John Yahab, in a statement in Kaduna State, denied neither knowing the said pastor nor the location, as well as the name of the church in any part of the 23 local government areas of the state.
So he's a fraud.
And then according to him, that he's just a faceless character who can easily give the faith of the community a bad name, especially as a body of Christians in the state cannot even trace his whereabouts or information about him. I found this really interesting because this made the rounds, and people went as far as calling their family members who were abroad to tell them to come back so that they could make heaven with them. If not, that the said pastor was going to make them, that they were going to be deported. Somehow he would be angry and he will find a way to bring them back. It's really troubling how people can be hypnotized and brainwashed into believing things like this in 2022.
I mean, are they going to die before they make heaven?
Are they going to? I mean, there were quite a number of people.
There were a lot
of people who have paid and who had camped in Ekiti
They're tired
in
of being
most
unheard.
deplorable situations and circumstances just because they wanted to make heaven. But Khan has dissociated. So anybody who is associating with this pastor, well, beware.
Nigeria is tiring. It begs the question as to why people really want to check out.
No, but it tells you the state of the mind of people
yeah,
generally.
but
At this time,
The
so
level
it's-
of poverty is making people to
this
think.
is a branch of the bigger problem.
Of course.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's a branch of a big.
There's
So it
a
just shows to
huge
you,
problem.
I
that
feel
is-
like religion has Africans or Nigeria in a chokehold. It's literally holding people by the neck. And people have refused to learn
think
for
or
themselves.
reason it out.
it's unfortunate.
You know, let's go to you.
Poverty does a lot for us. And that goes for my story as well, which talks about a 30-year-old widow arrested for selling her drugs in Kano. And this was not the first time she was apprehended. And it was said that the lady was identified by the name Jamila Abdullahi. She's been arrested by the police in Kano for allegedly dealing illicit drugs. It was gathered that the suspect was arrested alongside some man on Saturday, 30th of April, with 35 tubes of rubber solution. And according to the commander spokesperson, the superintendent of police, says this comes after a month after she's been arrested and released and signing an undertaking not to involve in such an illicit act. Evidently, she has gone back into the act and she's been rearrested for dealing and selling drugs. She's a widow, for one. She's a 30-year-old young lady, for another. And she's the second time she's been arrested. And it makes me wonder, how hardened have people become? Because for you to have been arrested once, it means you were really given a second chance to turn a new leaf. And she went ahead and did it again.
So you know that
It's
you know
really disturbing to see that young
Yeah.
people are under such pressure. I mean, even if she's a widow, does she have to do drugs in order to
So
supply?
I was going to say that you remember that documentary? I think it was the BBC that did that. That exposed the drug, the state of drug usage in Kano. Remember I think that video?
Yes, yes.
So you would, first of all, I think that because the business might be very lucrative, that's why she feels like, you know what, this one is quick money. Drug money is quite
quite
easy.
good money.
Yes, it's because it's quite, you can easily get, you know,
Quick
cash in
returns.
very
Yeah.
quickly. Yes,
There are
you
a lot of
understand?
people
So,
hooked on drugs,
yes,
so they're
very
willing
hooked.
to
So
buy.
they're willing to buy. So the market is there for it. So yeah, I like the fact that they are giving her. Well, rather than do that, why don't we kill the market, right? Let's also stop focusing on these are just. If there is nobody to
Offshoots.
buy drugs, nobody is going to sell it. So
But trust
there's a
me,
big
we will always have
Of
vices
course,
in our society.
of course, there's a bigger problem, which I tell that there's a drug problem in the north. Big drug,
It's
just like
really
the way,
huge.
yes, just like the way we have the Miri or whatever
Yes.
in the east. We have a
Ice.
huge problem with drug use and abuse in the north as well. So there's a bigger problem, and I hope that they'll be able to fish out
Look
because she's
beyond the
just
fruits and see the root cause
Yeah,
of these vices.
So my story is actually on a very sad note, very, very sad note. I listened to the voice note. I almost was in tears. I think it was finally I had the courage to listen to it this afternoon, where a couple, a military couple, they were on their way for their traditional marriage, and they were apprehended by unknown right? Unknown. They say yet to be identified assailants. What they call, when you listen to the audio, the guy was saying, have you heard of unknown gunmen and all of that? So the couple were on their way for the traditional marriage, and according to the source, they said the young woman was first of all raped and was then shot alongside with her fiance. Both of them, they were getting married, and later the duo, they were later beheaded. This is very sad. This is very sad. It just begs, I mean, it just reminds me of the conversation that we had with Dele Farotimi yesterday when he was talking about if you can comfortably live within 50 kilometers of the current city that you're in, without the fear of being kidnapped or, or being robbed or raped or whatever, or being
murdered.
used or murdered, So everybody has that fear. You really can't do road trips anymore. There were times, there used to be times where you could actually go on road trips at night because it was a peaceful.
It was better time to move.
A smoother drive and all of that. But now it's really, for the longest of almost a month now, my mother has been struggling to go back to base because it was she left Kaduna the day. It was the very next day that the attack at the airport happened, so then the train, the double train attack and all of that. So now she's even contemplating, how do I go back, So it's a big issue. And when we're talking governance and all of that, people should understand that the big issue we have in this country is so deep that we have to start focusing on, and that was a conversation we had yesterday, don't just put your eyes on presidency. Right? The person that will represent your constituency is very important. The person that will represent you down to the local government is very important. As a councillor, those people are the people that will drive good governance, drive all these things that we're talking about, security. So we can't just wake up and just think that we can just fold our arms and do nothing and just focus on one messiah that will come in the person of the president or a governor. It's not going to work anymore. We need to be very, very clear on who we want to vote.
Well, touching on that part of the councillors and the local government chairman, if you are in governance or in government, you'd understand why they are almost absent.
So I think we'll hold on to that. When we come back from the break, we're going to be discussing this form reduction, right, of women and all of that. We're going to be discussing that as our conversation for the day. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for staying with us. Referencing a publication titled Political Financing for Women, Money is Essential for the Operations of Political Parties and particularly affects candidates in the electoral process or the processes. Now, political financing regulations can affect women's access to run as candidates, be elected, campaign, and reach out to the population. Regulations on political funding are used to level the playing field in electoral competition. They can also work to ensure that women are able to compete on a more equal footing with men. Now, this in turn may result in women's increased political participation. Or is there an underlying motive behind these women that are underrepresented, not only in the political sphere, but also in decision making within the private sector, at the village level, at the civil society level? At the local level, men usually dominate positions of power, including as religious and traditional rulers, local politicians, and village elders. Now, the 2023 elections is fast approaching, and we are asking, this form cost reduction for women that they have done, is it a strategy at weakening the political relevance of women, or it is actually a good thing or is a plus for them? This is the question for tonight. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-8038-4663. You can also tweet at us at WaysShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WaysShow. So this conversation has been brewing for a while now, and we had to drag in our honorable. Maybe she would help us to tell us the experience, right? So at face value, when you hear that, oh, women and the disabled, because they categorize us together. So many say we don't disable with that. Women and disabled, would pay, only expression of interest form.
Expression of interest fee.
Yes, expression of interest fee, rather, for a position that she is going to be in competition with another person that would pay not just the expression of interest, he will also pay the nomination forms. So at face value, you go, whoa, yeah, they're trying to push and support women and make it like truly, we want to fill up that 35% quota. I think that's what we have for women and all of that. But when you now sit down, come out of that picture and look at it holistically. Is this really...
Is it a plus or minus?
Yes, a good thing for a woman? Because does it not further cement that patriarchal mindset that feels like a man is more superior? That feels like, oh, women are to be, seen in a certain light when it comes to that they are not as strong politically as so they need to also be treated like eggs and all of that. Is that not like more? But let me hear, Honorable. Then I'll come to you, ladies.
No, you're starting with me.
I wanted to start with you, or should I start with Jennifer?
I would like to hear.
Okay, Jennifer, let me hear your thoughts. We've not heard you in a long time.
I think first of all, I would like to state that fee is ridiculous. Because if you're asking a candidate to pay 100 million, 50 million, just to apply for a seat, where do you expect them to get the money from? It just begs the question. Like, we know what these people do. We know how some of them make their money. But when you're asking for 100 million naira, that's ridiculous. And then I've seen people who are trying to rally other people around. Okay, donate here, do this, do that. And I'm like, you want them to commit fraud? Because that's the next thing. And that's how they're going to get their money. But maybe they have big daddies and uncles that are backing them. But then when we bring it down to women, I mean, like you said, at face value, it seems like, oh, this is a good thing. They are including women. I mean, we've all been talking about inclusivity for a very long time, and women want to be part of the change that we're making in our country. We want to set an example. We want people to know that we have a voice. We can also do better. We can play on that field with the men. But at the end of the day, when you look at it, like, I mean, it was the way it was categorized.
Women are disabled.
It doesn't sound nice. It doesn't sound nice. But I mean, I'm not into politics, and I feel like the women who are into politics will be the ones to tell us where the shoe is actually pinching them. Do you understand? Because, I mean, the money, like I said, is a lot.
It's a lot. See, honestly, it's a big relief.
It's a lot of money.
So for a firm that I was supposed to probably pay like 10 million, they're asking me to just bring only 1 million.
Yeah.
It's a huge relief on me. But I'm just thinking, if somebody that says, it's just like, I don't know how to explain it. Family meetings. I mean, the Igbos, you will know now. When you're doing family meetings, it is the person that contributes big. Now you will give the floor.
Yeah, that's the person they give respect
to. We all know that Nigerians, there is something with money, and so because you have dropped a huge thank you that is attached to that. So does that not weaken the respect that a woman will get because somebody will say, "Shut up there." After all, not only 1 million naira you pay.
I actually think there's going to it's going to bring a ripple effect at the end of the day, because when men and women are sitting on the table, you realize that it is still the men that are calling the shots. They are still the ones that have the final say. They'll still be the ones to make all the decision, and all the women need to do is. So even, you just nod. And even when you disagree, it's a problem. Why? Because I brought in way more money than you did. So if there's a circle,
what's your stake?
If there's a circle and the man is bringing 90% and you're bringing 10%, please, what exactly are you bringing to the table? I mean, it seems juicy because, I mean, you pay 100, I paid 2 million. I can afford it. Do you understand? But I mean, I think this is something we would have to watch and see
how it plays out.
Yeah, knowing our Nigerian men. Sorry. It's a very dicey and very difficult one for me to say that the motive is clean. Or you're coming from a very genuine place.
Thank you. Not my finger.
Oh, wow. I totally agree with Jennifer because, like you said, at face value, it looks like a good place to start. And I would say it's a good place. At least we've started, right? But it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there because like Jennifer had mentioned, women need a voice. Women need to be heard. And if it comes from the place where the impression is that you are doing women a favor and you are tagging them along, no disrespect to people who are in fact, just the capping is very unsettling for me. Because someone who is also disabled, someone who is a woman, does not stop their disability or the fact that they are women, does not change what they can offer, what their capacity or competence is all about. Disability does not in any way impede anybody being able to perform. So when you cap it like that, then like Jennifer said, it will be seen from a place that is not genuine, right? I'm looking forward to a time, I mean it's a start, but I'm looking forward to a time where parties will be able to create equal opportunities for women and men and disabled people, because it is not the fact of gender or their status or their condition that limits their capacity to be able to perform. If somebody is able to perform irrespective, after all, in the time, I think it was Abraham Lincoln, or was it Theodore Roosevelt, there was one of the American presidents who was disabled. A lot of people don't remember that he was disabled. All they remember is that he was president. It didn't impede on his ability to be able to deliver as the president of United States. So if somebody is coming from a perspective where you're saying, okay, let us reduce this because they are women, because they are disabled, then it's very insulting. It's better that you come from the point that says, oh, this money's it's too much. Like Jennifer rightly said, where are you going to get 100 million from? As a worker, is as a civil servant or as a what? How are you going to get that money?
That is trying to perform their civic duties.
Exactly. So when you look at it and you say this money cannot, it's not feasible. Can we do something that any Nigerian who is hardworking enough, who has what it takes, and who has the backing of his people or his citizens? After all, in several countries, they actually get people to donate. So your 1,000 naira or your 500,000 naira can be feasible enough to get me what I need to be able to get the ticket. Then I would say that we are making headway. But we'll love to hear from dear Honorable in the House, because I'm sure she has a lot to say.
It's very interesting. I deliberately did want to
start off,
because I wanted to hear my ladies. And in defense to my party, as a politician, I want to say that for every effort, there's always going to be people that attack it and those that support it. When I saw the price, just like, wow, I
relief
for joy.
You were relieved.
This is the best time to be a woman. But later on that day, because I saw it on the National Woman Leaders Platform, Better Edu, a very good kudos to her for that initiative. You know, it's interesting when she took that initiative, Daya Israel also took the initiative to rise for youth reduction in form. And really, I want to say that in all fairness, because for me, I'm very optimistic than I'm pessimistic. And I like to see the good in everybody's deed than I do see the negativity. But it doesn't mean that there are no drawbacks to this. I want to say well done to APC. I want to say well done to the party for considering women and giving us a chance. Because what I see is they want to make it easier for women entry. Do you understand that a lot of women are probably dependent on their spouses and they have lower sources of income, and as such they decide to reduce the bar so that more women can have access to buy their form and be able to participate. For me, what I want to address is the cost of form in the first place is quite high. I mean, for every Nigerian who just wants to serve, if we're really committed to service in the real sense, without a motive or an agenda to go and amass wealth, why should we raise the bar that high? For me, that's where it starts. But that's not the conversation for today. The conversation is, as the price, reducing the price for women, has it favored us in any way or has it not? And I have had to receive the backlash. And that was why I said, we need to have this conversation on the show. even though we are allowed to pay for expression of interest and we get the form for free. It is convenient without a doubt. I mean, come on. The 9 million naira that I could have paid for form has gone into campaign and trying to get more support for my
Absolutely.
One thing people do not understand is the fact that I'm not paying for form does not mean I'm not spending that money. I'm still having
other things that you're
I'm still having to spend the money on a lot of things that are not even we can get receipt for. You're going to do consultation, you're going to have meet people. The campaigning is expensive in Nigeria. You dare not go near politics. What I know today, if I knew it 8-9 months ago when I started, I probably would not have started. But I'm glad that I didn't know, and I only found out along the way. And it was too late for me to say, hey, I'm not doing it again. So now we do what? We stay in this thing and we run it through. So for me, I've had people say that. We sat in a meeting, for example, they were trying to streamline us down and say, okay, there's too many of you coming out. Why don't you both, all aspirants, agree and step down for one another? And they say, you step down after you paid 1 million. I say, that's the backlash. Those are some of the drawbacks. I say, excuse me, I am happy to pay 10 million naira. They said, really? I said, yes. I would have paid 10 million naira if that is the price of fee and there was no concessor or no reduction for women, because you now think that because I paid 1 million naira, I have no rights. I don't have the same strength
backing
to come to the table and negotiate for my inclusion in governance. And for me, I start to wonder, that means we would become weaker and it reduce our negotiating power when they think that we have paid a token and a fraction of what men pay. So therefore, you can't complain if you do not emerge. I see it as a decoy to just give us a chance, but not in the real sense, give us a fair, level playing field. And that's what we are clamoring for. For me, it's about, we are grateful for the chance, but then if it's going to impede on our chances to agitate actively and really throw our weights on the field, then we can just keep the fee,
the way,
and let us pay the full price so that we can have equal rights to compete toe-to-toe with men. So no man can come and challenge my right to say, oh, you pay 1 million naira, what do you know about? I mean, I pay 10 million naira. That is not fair in the real sense, because people are beginning to attack the fact that we paid less than the men, and that doesn't give us a chance to adequately compete with men. For me, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so we're going to take a break now. I want to open our phone lines. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for staying with us. If you just tuned in, it's our Ladies' Night Out, and our focus tonight is form cost reduction. We're asking, is it a plus or a plot to weaken women's political relevance? Please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-8663. You can also tweet at us at WayShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WayShow. Our phone line is now open. The number to call is 070-2500-7749. I'm already hearing the phone ringing. Today. So, this conversation, me, I like to find trouble. Because, you know how somebody say, because I've seen this happen and it plays out a lot. And that's why I hate handouts. Don't give me fish. Show me the way to go and catch the fish, because I might catch a fish that is bigger than your own fish. Do you understand? It is the same. Yes. Yes. I can't be better than you. So it's the same principle. Don't act as though you are doing me a favor. If I have the capacity and the competence, right, to get this job done, can I please be allowed to get the job done?
Yes.
You understand? And give me a playing field. So they say, okay, they've reduced costs for women and all of that. Everybody is jubilating. But you then come to the negotiating table where they're having several meetings and consultation. They tell you to step aside. After all, the stake that you put into this matter is not as high as what another man has put in. So that is where the, you know, the disparity now comes unfair. It becomes unfair on the woman. Because if you really wanted to start acting like that, you should treat me like I paid 10 million. Yeah. You should treat me like I paid the complete 100 billion. Whether if because I did not ask for it, you decided that you wanted to give me for a 100 million ticket, you said you wanted to pay me, you wanted me to pay 5 million.
And I am willing to even deliver at that rate.
Optimal rate. So the fact that I'm paying this amount does not mean that it changes the capacity or the vision and the goal that I have for the dream and the aspiration to serve my people. Do you get? So that's where I think the problem is. So but let's take a call. Sorry, darling. We have a first caller for today. Solomon from Abuja. Let's hear what you have to say. You're live.
Okay. I see this issue of cost of reduction or plot or to weaken women's political relevance. See, just tell them when they call for a meeting, just let them understand that the issue is not about reaching the women, so that at the end of the day, if they come trying to make anything like that, they should know that from the beginning you have already agreed that yes, this is what we agreed on. But if they refuse to agree on that one, let the women pay exactly the same thing that men pay, so that at the end of the day, anybody that is trying to do something, we should know, because we have already tired of all this kind of rubbish that they are doing. The government is not trying. Men, let's try women and see. Because even at home, in the house, women, when anything that women say, or anything that women agree on, that can always work more than what men do.
Thank you, Solomon.
I give you kudos. You are trying. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, so.
I believe the reason why we get some of this favoritism is because of our constant clamor for women inclusion in governance. I think we women lay too much emphasis on our gender, and we push a bit too far. There's a lot of programming going on here.
Absolutely.
There's a lot
I
of.
agree.
There's a lot of.
I agree.
Premeditation that is underlining how we are treated and how we're perceived. You know, it's one thing to, even the same thing that we women are dealing with is the same thing that youth are facing. You know, because the youth gets 50% reduction because they think that, oh, you're a young person and that. I believe we should look beyond women, and this is for women. We should stop clamoring for inclusion. We should just continue en masse. The tides are changing, the times are different, because the number of women that are coming to run for office in this 2023 is way higher than what we've had. And it simply means there's a major shift and there's a major awareness in the level of women responsiveness towards running for office or trying to run for positions beyond the traditional women leader. Because a lot of the time they consider us for complementary roles. They make you commissioner for women affairs, they make you women leaders deputy governor, and that's pretty much all, first ladies, and that's pretty much all they see us to be, and that's what a lot of us see ourselves to be. You know,
a pretty face.
It's really a major challenge that women themselves needs to start to not clamor for inclusion. Just do your thing.
Job,
Just push yourself out there, irrespective of your gender.
Okay,
and
I think we
time,
have a call. With time, you definitely get there. I was going to say, even the men, can they really afford the 100 million? Let's take a call, Samuel. You're live. Hi, Samuel.
Yeah, a quick one. I will tell you a story about my personal life. And I want the men that are listening to this program to learn from it. A man called me from Ondo State. That was when I was a teenager. He said, if an average Nigerian man can listen to his wife, he will go far. Do you know the peace I have at home today? I learned one lesson from what that man said.
And listening to your wife.
Let me quickly dive into this topic. If Nigerian politicians, the ones I call goats, that you ask me to apologize for, will listen to women, in fact, we will go far. You have a senator here. I want to ask a question. Do you know that the countries that are benefiting from democracy today are the ones who women are their presidents? That's a food for thought.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you so much for weighing in on that.
That's
a serious
Samuel is still insisting on this goat matter. he called our leaders goats last week. I don't beg you say they are not goats and sheep. He's still insisting. And someone is saying on YouTube, say nice conversation today. So it's a nice conversation to have, but I want us to, because for us we don't just bring topics so that we sit down and say, oh, we're having a great conversation. No, we want people to really think deep. Because you see, this, however you look at it, right? You talked about saying, okay, maybe it will ease the burden on the woman and all of that. These men that raise this 50 million, 100 million, can they really, really afford it in the sense of it? Do they really have that money? If they really did, right, we'll not have the issues of godfatherism, where it means that somebody comes and sponsors you and now expects certain kinds of compensations and return. Do you understand? Even the men do not have it. They have to go and source for those funds. Do you get?
It's not about
so it's not about you're a man or a woman. Yeah. We cannot afford it. I was talking to someone, and the person, in fact, that's why I want us to have that conversation on the minimum wage come Thursday. The person said to me, he said, Uwa, going by the 30,000 naira minimum wage that we have today,
currently,
that if they born you today, Milola,
you can't,
like say they born you today and you start to earn monthly salary, like you're not waiting till you're 18, you started earning salary from the month you were born to when you are 85. That's when you can get up to, how much was it? I think maybe one ridiculous amount of money, maybe 30 million naira or something for your lifetime of 85 years. So tell me, how do you understand? How do we really even sustain these things that is a false? We are not a wealthy country. That you are even putting the form at 100 million or 40 million or 50 million. How many people can really afford this? It is ridiculous.
I believe.
But let's take a call, then I'll come back to you, Milola.
Hello?
Who is that again from Abuja? Solomon.
Yes, the same Solomon. I call back again.
Okay.
You see, let me use the language that I understand. The thing be say politicians in Nigeria now, they see women as a weaker vessel. No, we say women are the most important thing in politics, just as they are important in the house again. You understand? Because anything that you do at home is the same thing that you apply outside. You see? So now, the government of Nigeria today, they think that women are nothing. Just like our president before, he said that his wife work is in the kitchen as the other room. So now, what is that one for? If they allow the women to participate in the politics, at the end of the day, they will see things changes. Meanwhile, they have already failed us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Agenda. Thank you so much for feeling the pain and the plight of women.
You know what?
Okay, I have.
You have a
let me read my comments very quickly. It says, "Hello, ladies, my dear feminist Jennifer. You are not clamoring for equality for women to pay same as men, or your feminism does not extend to this area." So Jennifer, that question is for you. You don't want level playing field again. On the matter, women should clamor for level playing field and on all fronts if they want to be taken seriously politically. The discount is attractive, but as we know, a wolf, they podge belly. This is from Frank, which is very true. And I agree with Honorable Milola, because women need to take themselves seriously. You can't continue to have hand-me-down. This looks like another hand-me-down. And until they see that they have a lot more to offer, that they have brains that we can key into to change situations in the education, in healthcare system, in the economy of the, I mean, we have some women who are representing us on that level, but a lot more women need to rise up to that challenge to begin to push themselves, not as women and people to be pitied or weaker vessel, or like you are being handed down a responsibility. You have what it takes. It's not the money, it's not the form that validates you as a person. You have it on your inside. Let it out. Let it out and let them begin to see, not because you're trying to compete with men, but because you are a human being who has a civic responsibility to citizens that are looking up to you to deliver, whether you say you are in the Senate, whether you say you're going to represent them in the House of Representatives, whether you want to be the governor of a state, or even the president of Nigeria. It's not because you're a woman. It is because you're a human being that has what it takes to move.
So I have a comment here I would like to address. It says, Dear Uwa, yes, the fees fixed for the political stages are outrageous, but intentionally fixed to weed out the crowd of contenders. If men have to source funds for this, women have to step up and do same. It may not be ideal, but you don't hate the player, you hate the game. Learn the rules and play by it. So we have not said that we do not. What we are saying is that allow us to also be at that position where we can raise the funds. But you see, when you say that the fees are fixed at outrageous prices to weed off, what's it called?
So
weed off, weed out.
Does it
the
still
contenders.
stop the people who do not have what it takes to not gather the money and still come and take that position?
Of course, so that's what is happening. You know, because it's not in any way within of any contender. You understand? Because for me, I think this fee just continues to bring a lot of people that are really, first of all, very desperate, and they can do anything just to get that seat of power, because they know by the time they land there, there are opportunities for them. People that have capacity and the heart for service might not want to go into that because you are, from day one, you've already made it a money game.
The foundation is already wrong.
Leadership is not a money game. It's not about money that determines whether you'll be a good leader, that you have a lot of money will determine that you're a good leader. No. It's a very wrong foundation that you have set.
Well, don't get very emotional. In fairness to what that caller said, in the actual fact and in the real sense, a lot of people actually dropped off the list because of the cost. For example, there were 5 of us from my local government. We dropped down to 3. And I said to them, even if it was set at 10 million, I would still have been able to show that I'm serious about the game. Because trust me, a lot of people are actually not serious about running.
But Milola, seriousness should not always translate to
the
money.
Value you pay.
Do you understand? Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like every time we're getting close to election period, people tend to forget the past events that have happened. Now, look at the past governance and those who have actually shown interest in the presidency. We've seen how they govern us in the past.
And they now want to be
and
presidents.
now they want to. So they have access to the 100 million. But we know what you've done before. We know that you cannot deliver. And it's as simple as that. I get that, you're putting the money up here so you don't have a lot of contenders. But at the same time, people who actually have the capability to take us to where we want to go to cannot participate.
Even if they want to come from a place of standard, it's not the money.
Thank you.
Why not raise the bar to
intellectual standards?
Intellectual standards.
Capacity.
To capacities that people can see. Questions. There's some people who come out and say they want to be president.
They
just being able to communicate is a problem. They have no agenda that can move the people forward.
So what if you bring people in the room and say, okay, what is your track record? Where are the businesses? Because Nigeria is a business.
Yeah.
Where are the businesses that you have run successfully? So you then have people like the Tony Lumelus and all of these people that are running successful businesses to say, okay, you know what? I can then step up. It's not a money game. Governance has never been and will never be about money. So you cannot tell me that raising the money to 100 million means that you're winning off whatever.
I think our priorities are a bit misplaced.
I have
in
a
that regard.
comment from Ade.
Yeah.
And he says, good evening, ladies. In my opinion, any political party that gives a woman a vice presidential position is most likely to win the race. In Nigeria, women are more populated than men. Is a step forward for possible women president in future. Thank you so much, Ade, for throwing that in. But most times, they really do not consider us for the role of a president.
They can
Vice president.
It's always vice. It's always deputy.
Even with the vice.
Even vice president,
with
they
the
can't
vice
consider-
and the deputy.
We're not
you
there yet.
actually have a voice.
No.
They're
You're
usually-
just a
usually-
figurehead.
Just a figurehead.
They're just a spare,
Yeah.
even for the man. They're usually a spare in the event that anything happens to the president or to the governor. That's when you're supposed to step in. If there's nothing wrong with the number one citizen, you really are just
So they say,
incubating.
Jennifer, let's take a comment. It says, Ade says again, Ade is from the UK, says, women should be given a free ticket, but start as a running mate for the political party. Ade, so you see this thing where everybody just feel, oh, okay, put a woman as a running mate, put a woman as a running mate. We should stop looking at those. Some women
That's why
do.
I said there's a lot of problems.
Yes. Some women do have the capacity to be on the driver's seat, right? Can we stop limiting women to just, because you see, when you put a woman as a running mate, she's just a figurehead. I mean, we've seen countless deputy governors in Lagos State as women.
Yeah.
What really is their political relevance? What is their relevance, or what impact did they really have on the actual governance that happened in the state? We know now, we can't be deceiving ourselves.
These women
if
always
we
act
want to
as
get-
invisible supporting roles.
If we want to get
Basically,
a balanced
nobody's seeing you.
opinion, they're going to look at us and say, oh, they're feminists, oh, they are clamoring for women in governance. It would be nice if you probably bring a male on the show and let's hear a male's perspective on this conversation, because trust me, we sound like we're just agitating for women and we need more women. But really, it's not about that. It's about trying to identify some of the
Loopholes
issues here and see how we can
Puncture
tilt
holes
the
into
balance and ensure fair system, equal level playing field where we do not get attacked because we did not ask for a free nomination fee. We were given that, and at the end of the day, that privilege we got
Was now
seemed to be used against
you.
us. And that's really, for me, the major crux of this
So I want to
conversation.
address
Let's take a
something
comment. Yeah, go
based on
ahead.
the comments Norma took. So for me, even as a woman, I don't think I would just give you a free pass just because you're a woman. Honestly, you also need to put in the work.
Of course.
I'm not going to vote for you if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. If you cannot deliver, as a woman, as a man, you should not be there in the first place. It's as simple as that. And I feel like that's what we need to start looking at. I feel like people have not suffered enough. When it gets to election period, they seem to forget that they suffered.
was a big
You
problem.
just suffered last month.
Sometimes,
So why are you
know,
not
the-
looking for change? Why are you not
the
looking
salt
for
and
something
the
better?
pepper,
For competence.
The soap is available.
Jennifer, let's take your comments.
So I have a comment here. Good evening, my dear beautiful sisters of Ways. Concerning 2 out of the 4 topics discussed, we cannot blame Khan from disassociating themselves from that fake pastor who is demanding 310,000 from people to see heaven. It is obvious that the pastor is fake and a scammer. I am sure that the pastor has not seen heaven before. My dear beautiful sister Jennifer just made a point that the money asked for concerning the form for an office in government is ridiculous and on the high side. If you pay that amount and no guarantee to be elected into that office, the money is gone and you can never retrieve it. Sister Jennifer, you're welcome back. You're looking so pretty and beautiful.
Thank you.
My name is Daniel Ilo, Ways regular fan. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel. So we're discussing this topic today possibly because of a part of the cost of form was waived. Should this waiver wasn't given, okay, I don't understand this your English, our women would have complained that they were marked out. I think our women need to learn how to take challenges by the horn and develop negotiation power. Regards from Lawrence, Lagos. We would not have felt bad, but let's take. Yes, we would have paid for the form,
because we're serious like that.
Go ahead.
All right, so let me take this one. It says, let's get it straight. The women have been sidelined and humiliated politically a long time by the men. How do you expect a woman to buy a form worth 100 million, 50 million alongside the men folk? This is madness and wickedness. The women have the highest votes in Nigeria. It's high time that the women resist by protesting nationwide, or better stop voting. I weep for the Niger woman. This is Bobby Kennedy from Jalingo in Taraba
All right, so
State.
we have to run. Thank you so much, ladies. We had a fantastic conversation. We hope to bring we'll bring it back. Now, before we go, to ensure you follow us on Wayshow Africa on Instagram, on Twitter at Wayshow Africa 1. You can drop your comment. More importantly, follow all our engagements on social media. Now, if you missed today's quote, here it is again. There needs to be a fundamental shift in the way societies view women in government. One that does not see them as a mere seat fillers or stats on a chart. They must be viewed as a vital contributing factor to the betterment of the world. That's as simple as it gets. We'll see you guys live at 8 p.m. tomorrow as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. From the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
After a mob attacked the U.S. Capitol to overturn an election, how far has the investigation moved, and who is being held accountable? Go inside the hallways of the Hill and find out how close America was to losing and keeping its democracy.
Come on, let's go!
Next on the Inside Story, Capitol attack 1 year later. Hi, I'm Katherine Gibson, VOA's congressional correspondent, and welcome to my workplace, the U.S. Capitol. A little more than a year ago, this citadel of democracy was overrun by a mob of people with apparent intent to disrupt the official process of declaring the winner of the 2020 presidential election. 1 year later, the legal and political impact of the Capitol attack is still being determined. Ahead, details on the arrests, the search for accountability, and American attitudes on the January 6th attack. First, where President Joe Biden places the blame.
It has been a year since supporters of Donald Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol to stop lawmakers from certifying the results of the 2020 presidential election won by Joe Biden.
1 year ago today, in this sacred place, democracy was attacked.
Without once mentioning Donald Trump by name, Biden laid the blame squarely on him.
For the first time in our history, a president had not just lost an election, he tried to prevent the peaceful transfer of power as a violent mob breached the Capitol.
Biden also blamed Trump for what Democrats call the big lie, the narrative that the 2020 election was stolen, a baseless claim the former president and some Republicans continue to push to this day.
Because he values power over principle, because he sees his own interest as more important than his country's interest, than America's interest, and because his bruised ego matters more to him than our democracy or our Constitution. He can't accept he lost.
Trump canceled his planned news conference and said in a statement that this political theater is all just a distraction for the fact Biden has completely and totally failed. In a statement, Mitch McConnell, the Senate's top Republican, accused Democrats of trying to exploit this anniversary to advance partisan policy goals. Many observers say American democratic institutions had been under stress long before the assault. Strengthening voting rights and election integrity was highlighted by Vice President Kamala Harris as a needed response to the insurrection.
Will it be remembered as a moment that accelerated the unraveling of the oldest, greatest democracy in the world? Or a moment when we decided to secure and strengthen our democracy for generations to come?
The siege has had a global impact. Adversaries, including Russia and China, have used it to defend their undemocratic systems.
For Putin to continue to push the message around the world that U.S. democracy is not something to be longed for, that it is as chaotic and broken as the Russian system is. And for China to argue, as it does, that it has an alternative that is superior.
Biden rejected the arguments.
From China to Russia and beyond, they're betting that democracy's days are numbered. They've actually told me democracy is too slow, too bogged down by division to succeed in today's rapidly changing, complicated world. And they're betting. They're betting America will become more like them and less like us. They're betting that America is a place for the autocrat, the dictator, the strongman. I do not believe that. That is not who we are. That is not who we have ever been. And that is not who we should ever be.
The road ahead is challenging. Fueled by election fraud conspiracies, Republicans in multiple states have championed legislation limiting voting access and giving them more power over their state's election systems. Democrats say these measures will disadvantage them at the ballot box and are a threat to democracy. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News, Washington.
1 year later, there are still questions about the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol and who was ultimately responsible for the worst attack on the seat of Congress in 2 centuries. Many of former President Trump's supporters claim the breach was not serious, while critics say Trump directed his supporters to overturn Joe Biden's election victory, effectively undermining the democratic process. Rioters roamed the halls of the Capitol building, raising security concerns for lawmakers and staffers who were preparing to certify Biden's election victory.
I'll never forgive former President of the United States and his lackeys and his bullies that he sent to the Capitol for the trauma that was exerted on our staff.
The U.S. House of Representatives moved swiftly to impeach Trump just days after the riot, alleging he was guilty of inciting the insurrection. But the U.S. Senate acquitted the former president of that charge in February 2021.
He is hereby acquitted.
Lawmakers have held numerous hearings on the security failures of that day. In late June, the U.S. House formed a special select committee to investigate the actions of then-President Trump. The panel has issued subpoenas to compel former White House officials and Trump campaign staff to testify about the president's actions that day and the days leading up to the attack.
Find Mark Randall Meadows in contempt of Congress.
The committee is expected to release a report on its investigation before the November 2022 midterm elections, but the findings are not legally binding. In the U.S. courts, 704 individuals have been charged at the federal level with offenses ranging from misdemeanor trespassing charges to more serious charges, including violence against law enforcement and members of the media. Researchers estimate about 70 to 80 individuals involved in militant networks face even more serious charges of conspiracy.
These are the hierarchical domestic violent extremist groups, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, some 3%ers mixed in there, who are alleged to have not just gone to the Capitol to see the speech, to protest, to march, but with a concerted conspiracy ranging from the collection of funds, the dispersal of weapons, of marching up the steps of the Capitol in a stack formation, to leaving guns at a Virginia hotel.
5 people present at the January 6th riot died. The question still being debated is whether the chaos developed spontaneously or was part of a planned insurrection directed by the then President of the United States. I'm here on the east front of the U.S. Capitol, and I'm looking down at the walk to work that I take every day and have made thousands of times over the years as I walk to work with lawmakers and legislative aides and the thousands of support staff. We all make this our routine place of work, and I'm usually thinking about the story that I'm going to be writing that day. Of course, on January 6, 2021, I was instead watching thousands of rioters overwhelm these grounds. And I was thinking about how the most secure building in the world, where I've always felt safe, was suddenly the most unsafe place. There were rioters breaking glass. They were overwhelming U.S. Capitol Police that I know personally. And all I could think about was whether or not the colleagues that I see every day would be safe in these hallways. We're just steps away from the chamber of the U.S. Senate right now, and in a hallway where I do a lot of my reporting, shouting questions during press conferences with Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer. But of course, on the day of the Capitol riot, this was very different. It's a place where a lot of the most famous images of that day happened, from rioters rappelling down the walls of the U.S. Senate to carrying Confederate flags past some of these paintings. We're also very close to the spot where U.S. Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman directed rioters away from U.S. senators, dramatically changing the course of that day. That's how I'm going to remember this hallway from now on. Of the 725 people arrested and charged with crimes for the Capitol attack, more than half work in what are considered white-collar jobs, including business owners, architects, doctors, and lawyers. That analysis by University of Chicago professor Robert Pape also shows that just 13% of those arrested were part of violent militia groups. So who are these people? Our Carolyn Presutti shows us some of them.
Of the thousands of supporters of former President Trump who stormed the Capitol, more than 725 have been arrested and charged with crimes. Floridian Robert Scott Palmer received the stiffest sentence yet, more than 5 years for assaulting a police officer with a dangerous weapon. Palmer is seen here spraying officers with a fire extinguisher, then throwing the canister at police. VOA was scheduled to interview Palmer, but he's in jail in quarantine after catching COVID. In a letter to the judge before sentencing, Palmer blamed former President Donald Trump and his advisors, writing, "They kept spitting out the false narrative about a stolen election and how it was our duty to stand up to tyranny." Another Capitol rioter from Florida, Felipe Marquez, says fake stories about human trafficking led him to join the uprising and to invade a senator's office. Marquez pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct in a restricted building and received 18 months probation. He told VOA in an email, "I would like to leave this in my past as a mistake."
I was trying to get more known for conservative content and getting views on YouTube, and the way the events of that day folded were terrible.
Name, gender, state.
John Lewis with George Washington University's program on extremism is tracking each case of those who stormed the Capitol.
You have defendants from 18 to 80 years old. You have individuals from every walk of life, from a salon owner to other business owners, to firemen, to law enforcement, to military.
More than 80% were charged based on evidence gathered from social media posts, often their own. Like Texan Jennifer Ryan, who gained notoriety after tweeting this photo in front of a broken window, along with a tweet that read, "We just stormed the Capitol. It was one of the best days of my life." Ryan later tweeted that she was not going to jail because she is blonde and white. Here's what she said as she left the courthouse after pleading guilty to demonstrating inside the Capitol and receiving a 60-day sentence.
I walked into the Capitol for 2 minutes, and I'm remorseful of that.
Ryan claimed her tweets, not her actions at the Capitol, got her into trouble.
I regret ever tweeting, but, it's a free country.
Some of those charged, like Yvonne St. Cyr, are unrepentant.
I own what I do, but I still believe in what I did was the right thing.
Others are not commenting on their case, including the man who propped his feet onto House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's desk and allegedly stole some of her mail. Instead, Richard Barnett, who faces 7 charges, is complaining about jail conditions, including solitary confinement.
You can love me, you can hate me. You can love me and hate what I did. You can not like anything about me. But you have to put that aside, because this isn't about me. This is about our federal prison system in America and what they are doing to people.
Trials have been avoided so far, as defendants have accepted plea bargains, sometimes for a lesser charge. Court observers say hundreds of remaining cases will take years to adjudicate. Carolyn Persutti, VOA News, Washington.
Investigations by both the Justice Department and Congress will try to uncover the extent to which political extremist groups participated in the planning and execution of the Capitol attack. Seamus Hughes is the deputy director of George Washington University's program on extremism. We spoke about the spike in U.S. political radicalism.
So January 6th was a unique moment. It was a perfect storm, right? So it had the mainstream politicians advocating for it. You had social media that was asleep at the wheel. You had a extremism movement online that was kind of very united on this idea. And conspiracy theories that all walked around January 6th being the moment. So since January 6th, we've had about 700 people who've been charged and arrested related to that event. The vast majority are kind of a pedestrian in nature, almost typical profile. Yoga instructor, construction worker, realtor in Texas. Like you said, they range in charges from misdemeanors to felonies. The vast majority actually weren't part of organized groups. The organized groups are the most concerning for law enforcement's perspective. So those groups are the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, for the most part, and a few 3%ers. So the Oath Keepers are an organized militia group that have been planning and organized for a number of years, this idea of pushing back on what they saw as government overreach. The Proud Boys is kind of a very interesting group. Think of it like a very misogynistic, aggressive pack of men, mostly men, who go around the room kind of attacking other groups. And then the 3%ers who believe that they're the only ones who are standing up against the Republic. So why is law enforcement so concerned about them? Is if you look at the images on January 6th, think of the guys who were walking up in stack formation in camouflage up the steps of the Capitol. So they're organized, they know what they're doing. There is some early reporting that says that they may not have been the first ones to breach the Capitol, but they encouraged others to do so. And once they saw the opportunity, they seized it. So about 3 years ago, the FBI director was asked about how many active investigations he has in all 50 states for domestic terrorism. He said 850. He was asked 3 months ago, and he said 2,700. So we've seen a very large rise in domestic extremism groups. Now, that is a coalescing of the use of social media, so going down a rabbit hole of algorithms that get you down the path where you don't want to go. You have these groups that have been operating with relative impunity for a number of years. The U.S. government and the intelligence community and law enforcement have largely been focused on foreign threats, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and taken their eyes off these domestic groups and allowed them to recruit and radicalize in a clip they haven't had since Oklahoma City. Unfortunately, I think we're all to blame for this. If you look at not only social media, but kind of mainstream sites, the idea that you push this, that the election was a fraud, that electionism, integrity upon it. That plays into a larger conspiracy theory. And this sense of, and we also can't discount what happened in the last 3 years for COVID. You have everyone locked down on their computers, not able to interact, feeling like the government's restricting their ability to do something. And so this gave them a right to do something. And so they just kind of got fed into that, again, that rabbit hole. They kept going down and down, where you're in a normal group on Facebook, and before you know it, you're in a QAnon group, and then you're going to a rally, and then you're going to January 6th. It's not that hard of a jump. Social media has not done a very good job when it comes to domestic extremism. They tend to have not policed their own sites. They haven't trained their content moderators on doing what they need to do. And to be fair, they haven't been pressured to do so. You know, every time they go up to Congress, they get kind of very random questions, not targeted. There's no bills that have any real legs in order to regulate them, so they're under no pressure to do so. And in order to do so, we're going to have to, as a society, say, you know, enough is enough. We can't allow this to happen. We have to figure out a way to rein this in, all while understanding this is kind of a private company, can set its own terms and services. But there's something to be said about shaming, right? There's something to be said about, listen, you know what's going on your platform. You've got to step up and do something. You saw what happened on January 6th, and there's some culpability there. It's clearly a growing problem. We also need to put it in context. You know, January 6th happens, but 2 weeks later, the president's inaugurated. There's no rally in D.C. The Justice for January 6th rally in the fall, very few people showed up. In many ways, we've hopefully learned the lessons in terms of getting better security, better intelligence, better information sharing at the national level. My concern is at the state level. We clearly are not on the same page in all 50 states on how to address this issue, and we're seeing these groups, whether it be the Proud Boys or others, move back away from a national model to a state and local model, and they're able to recruit people in their neighborhoods. And unfortunately, I don't think this is going to be a problem that's going to go away. If you look at the threat in the U.S., it's basically fractured. You have ISIS, you have Al-Qaeda, you have white supremacists, you have militia groups, you have QAnon, you have incels, you've got everybody on the map. It makes law enforcement's job a lot harder, and it's going to be, quite frankly, a mess for the next few years.
Political dividing lines are being hardened as former President Donald Trump continues to falsely claim the 2020 election was stolen from him. His influence on the Republican Party is evident as several key states are changing election laws to make it easier to reject results. VOA White House correspondent Anita Powell examines Trump's political influence ahead.
This is the face that launched thousands of angry people on the U.S. Capitol in one of the most stunning days in American history. The few thousand protesters who ended up entering the Capitol that January day sought out lawmakers, in particular House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and former Vice President Mike Pence, as they attempted to formalize Joe Biden's victory over Donald Trump in the November 2020 presidential election. The mob erected gallows, assaulted police and journalists, vandalized, and looted offices. The violence and chaos left 5 people dead, wounded 138 police officers, resulted in charges against more than 720 participants, and landed Trump a last-minute impeachment, his second, just days before he left office. Trump maintains the poll was rigged in the face of overwhelming evidence that there was no election fraud, as do some of his supporters, who continue to attend his post-presidential rallies.
I'm here to see our rightful president that actually won this election, and I just want to hear what he has to say.
Trump was planning to address his followers again on January 6th, but he canceled the event and says he'll instead address his followers at a rally planned for January 15th in Arizona. Observers say he's been busy all year trying to influence sympathetic lawmakers.
So he's trying to limit voting access in states that have diverse populations or ever more diverse populations like Georgia and Texas. He's trying to get people like Jim Jordan and Marjorie Taylor Greene, 2 members of Congress, to get them more of their own kind of people elected who will do things such as pursue policies designed to keep immigrants out of the United States, policies designed to take the United States out of its international alliances like the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So he has an America First agenda, he has an ego agenda, and he has an agenda about trying to rewrite history to match his false narrative, and he's pursuing that every day.
If anything, says analyst Suzanne Spalding, who leads the Defending Democratic Institutions project at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, this galvanizing event has only further divided the United States politically. Republicans who spoke out against Trump right after January 6th seem to have gone silent in the past year. More troubling, she said, polls show that 1 in 3 Americans believes violence against the government is justified. This seems to have given Trump fuel.
I suspect in that sense he has felt emboldened. I think there was, again, in the very first hours after that, those events, a sense among some of the Republican members of Congress that perhaps he had gone too far, and that they thought they had some breathing room to distance themselves. And unfortunately, what seems to have happened is that he has not lost his grip on the Republican Party.
Without naming him, Biden laid blame at Trump's feet in a speech at the Capitol on the attack's anniversary.
He has done what no president in American history, the history of this country, has ever done. He refused to accept the results of an election and the will of the American people.
Trump will likely reference Biden's words during the January 15th rally. But Spalding says the American people, not politicians, deserve the last word here.
I'm always struck by our national anthem, the words that we sing at ballparks and sport arenas all around the country. That starts with a question and ends with a question. It starts with the question of, is the flag still flying? We saw it through the night, through the battle, but now it's the morning. And the question is, does that flag still wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave? That's how it ends, with a question mark. And all of us must be part of making sure that that answer every day is yes.
So, a year later, which flag is it going to be? Anita Powell, VOA News, Washington.
That's all for now. Follow me on Twitter at KGYP, that's KGYP. Connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at VOA News, and stay up to date online at voanews.com. See you next week for the Inside Story.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
In raising our kids, parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you are looking for money to help other people, then it becomes easy.
Don't rush into marriage. I always say this. You rush in, you rush out.
Family is the bedrock of every society and the essence of life.
On Today with John and Helen, we dig deep into family values in every sense of the word.
Join us every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. on Plus TV Africa, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.
On Plus TV News Now, International Press Center stresses stakeholders' collaboration to safeguard press freedom as the world celebrates Press Freedom Day. NDLEA uncovers 22 billion naira worth of imported tramadol. European Union set to unveil plan to replace 2/3 of Russian gas this year. Good evening. I am Maureen Menong-Wezigwe, and this is News Now. The International Press Center, IPC Nigeria, has joined the global community to raise concerns about press freedom violations stressing the need for stakeholders' collaboration to safeguard its freedom. The IPC, which made the call in a statement by its communications officer, Olutoyin Ayode, to mark the 2022 World Press Freedom Day, urged the federal government to respect its commitment and uphold the right to freedom of expression as enshrined in Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the African Charter on Peoples and Human Rights. The organization stated that since 2020, it had identified over 100 journalists and other media professionals who had been victims of surveillance, spying, harassment, threats, violence, assaults, battery, unlawful arrests, jailing, kidnappings, and suspected murder. We are now being joined by NUJ Chairman, Lagos Chapter, Adeleye Ajayi. Glad to have you, Mr. Ajayi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Now, let's evaluate press freedom, especially here in Nigeria. Can we say that we are there yet?
Well, the press freedom in Nigeria is not totally free. And we are not yet there. It's not yet Uhuru when we talk about press freedom in Nigeria. The function of the press is to inform, entertain, and educate. But there are some factors impeding the activities of the media in Nigeria. And until these factors are addressed by both the government and even the private sector owners of media establishments, it is not yet Uhuru.
What are these factors?
What?
What are these factors you said have not yet been addressed?
Well, it has to do with the hazards of the job. The owners must ensure that journalists are well protected. Safety of journalists is very, very paramount. And then there is this ability to allow journalists free hand, to give them free hand in line with the code of ethics. The ownership influence is also one of the factors affecting the performance of journalists. And apart from that, harassment, as you mentioned in the news report, harassment, assassinations, and so on and so forth are some of the factors also impeding the activities of the press. And a lot of there are impunities against the press. A lot of media men have been, in the last 10 years or 15 years, have been either assassinated, maimed, or harassed. And the perpetrators of all these dastard acts should be brought to book. So until all these issues are addressed, we cannot say there is total press freedom in Nigeria.
Okay, when you say ownership interest hinders press freedom, what do you mean by that?
No, what I mean is the ownership. He who pays the piper in journalism, or in every balance, he who pays the piper dictates the tune. The owners, every media establishment has its own style book, its own art style, and it is what the owner wants you to write. That's subjectivity in journalism. Journalists should be given free hand to operate. Whether you are editor or reporter, you should be given free hand to operate. It should not be subjective. You should be objective in your report, factual reporting. But these days, it is what the owner wants you to write that you write, whether government establishment or the private sector. So all these are ways of gagging the press. The press should be given free hand to operate.
What do you think the government can do?
Section 22.
Yeah, what can the government do to defend the media from, first of all, this? How can the government make things better?
Well, it's just to give the press free hand and then to protect the safety in defense. You are talking about kidnapping, harassment. You discover that, for instance, recently or in the last year, it was a battle between the NPO, that is Nigerian Newspaper Press Association of Nigeria, Nigerian Union of Journalists, and Nigerian Guild of Editors against two bills that strayed into the National Assembly for amendment: the Nigerian Press Council Bill and the National Broadcasting Commission Bill. Those two bills have been suspended. Amendment bills have been suspended for now, but until government listens to the media, or the government allows the media free hand to operate, then we can't say we have total press freedom in Nigeria.
Well, there are journalists that have lost their lives, in the exercise of their profession. How best can they be immortalized?
Well, you will recall that Chris Imodibe, the late Chris Imodibe, Tayo Awutosin were victims of the Liberian War. And Champion then, when Champion was vibrant, they named the library after Tayo Awutosin. They named it Tayo Awutosin Library. And I think the Champion is, I don't know, Champion is trying to recuperate again, Champion newspapers. But I think other media houses should do so. Apart from media houses, we on our part as NUJ, we will follow suit. We will follow you, because this is just a pointer now that we need to immortalize our heroes, those who lost their lives in the course of duties. We have a number of them. If I start mentioning them, we won't live here today. So I think we should immortalize them, because these are heroes. They were either assassinated, they were either harassed. Both those harassed, those assassinated, we will immortalize them, as you have said. And that is a very good initiative that we have to work upon. And at the NUJ level, it's a pity, as I said, that all these things happen. And
well, thank you.
We implore the government of perpetrators of those dastard acts. I've said earlier on, the person must be brought to book. They should, if not, such dastard acts will continue. We want them to bring perpetrators to book. They cannot be let free like that. Those killings cannot be swept under the carpet.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Adeleye Ajayi, NUJ Chairman, Lagos Chapter. Thank you for your time. Moving forward. Over the years, disasters of various magnitude are becoming more frequent, intense, and geographically diverse in various communities across Lagos and Nigeria at large. Plus TV Africa Ngozika Ohechisi, who spoke with the former general manager of the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, Timiyu Adeshino, who said the federal government should invest heavily in disaster management structure. He also advocates that government should educate Nigerians more about disasters. Well, following this cause of building collapse in Nigeria, an expert in building, Professor Kunle Ade-Wahab, has pointed out that the sector of the economy is marred with unprofessional practices and regulatory compromise. In an exclusive interview with Plus TV News, Professor Wahab is touched on the housing deficit in Nigeria. Our correspondent, Jacinta Obyuku, now reports.
All over the world, building collapse is not new. However, human factors such as negligence, flouting of building codes, use of defective or substandard materials, incompetence, and corruption are said to be responsible for the damage. For instance, in Lagos, the city is often referred to as construction site, given the volume of building projects progressively taking place at various sites across the megacity. Professor Kunle Wahab is a professor in building. He spoke on the incessant building collapse.
It's not all the buildings that collapse that ought to have collapsed. There are some stresses, things that you can see deficient in building that can be corrected while the building is still going on. But these days, for what I can call irregularities, people who don't want to fulfill all the righteousness in construction, they may be doing something prematurely. And the people who are supposed to supervise, they are not forthcoming. Or, I want to use the word that people have paid for non-coming, but they'll still sign that they come and seen it and it's okay.
Chapter 59, Section 74 of the Urban and Regional Planning and Development Law of Lagos State 2010, which was signed by the former governor, Mr. Raji Fashola, although now amended, states that in the event of the collapse of any property or structure due to negligence on the part of the owner or the developer, such property shall be forfeited to the state government after due investigation or publication in the State Official Gazette. But to today, nobody has been prosecuted for building collapse or the building sites taken over by the government in accordance with the established position of law.
Designers of buildings and those who are like contractors are executing the building have to be competent people that not only knows what goes into the structure, but where you can avoid, adopting cutting corners.
Professor Wahab also hinted on the issues of spaces in structures and urged government to go beyond paperwork.
Not every house should have shops and of different characters in front of their, buildings, because they will add, whether we like it or not, to the overloading of building itself.
The Building Control Agency is required to conduct periodic inspection of building developments within the state to identify defective and distressed structures and has the power to demolish buildings that do not conform with the regulations and planning permits. Jacinta Ubiuku, Plus TV News.
It appears that the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency has concluded the search and rescue operations at the scene of the Ebutameta building collapse as sympathizers hang around Sabin. As scavengers climb the heap of rubble to pick bits and pieces of their properties, some residents and eyewitnesses say some of those that died in the tragic incident have been buried.
My mother-in-law and my sister lived in the collapsed building. The boys around tried, but they brought out my mother-in-law and the son dead. Some other victims were calling that they were still trapped in the rubble, but the caterpillars brought them out dead too. In fact, those dead were more than 20.
There are some houses inherited by the third generation and are still durable. But this house was not well built, whether it has existed for 30 or 50 years. Government should help monitor the developers, or else young and old would continue to die. This particular building was built with ordinary sand.
I will blame the government, because the residents of those places, I can't blame them much, in the sense that if you look at the cost of rentage in this country is too high. The cost of houses in this area is so much. Getting a room and parlor 1 million naira with agreement and commission. How many people has that money? And I believe most of them that died in that house because of the high cost of apartment. That is why they didn't leave.
Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State is set to formally declare his intention to contest the presidency of the country come 2023 on Wednesday in Abuja. The chief press secretary to the governor, Yinka Oyebode, who disclosed this in a statement, said that the declaration tagged Unveiling My Nigeria Agenda was the climax of the governor's extensive consultations across the geopolitical zones in the last 6 weeks. The governor's image maker said the declaration would also lay to rest speculations on whether he would run for the presidency or not. As all the political parties in the country prepare for the upcoming 2023 general elections, a group known as the Concerned Nigerian Citizens has called for a power shift to the South in the spirit of equity, justice, and fairness. The group, through its convener, Femi Osabinu, said this at a World Press Conference in Abuja. Emmanuel Ehijene completes the report.
Osabinu said that the briefing became imperative due to various agitations among southern ethnic nationalities, insisting that the presidency this time must move down south and the intrigues by some political actors to jettison the zoning arrangement must end. He said there is an unwritten conventional way for power to rotate between the north and the south since the return of civil rule in 1999.
Presidential election in Nigeria is highly influential and powerful as we all confer greater sense of belonging to the Federation on any ethnic or geopolitical zone that produces the president. This, no doubt, has deepened the agitation for power shift by various regions, and with us, resolve to implore all major political parties to have a deep think ahead of national conventions, ensure that power rotates to the south, as this will ensure that the country remains united.
Shedding more light on the agitation, other members of the group are of the opinion that power rotation will ensure equity, justice, and fairness in the nation's democracy. They also say it is sacrosanct if the nation is to attain unity, peace, and progress in all forms.
President Muhammadu Buhari, by the grace of God, will be president of Nigeria till May 29, 2023. I haven't served 8 years as president from the northern part of the country. In essence, it means that the next president of Nigeria, by the virtue of that convention, the principles of federal character as enshrined in our constitution, and by the virtue of the foundation of our democracy, the South must produce the next president of Nigeria.
If you look at it, it is proper that once one part of the country, which have been divided into two poles, the North and South poles, once one has had, it is proper that the other should have.
The group called on all the political parties in the country to respect zoning, and that now is the time to do just that.
Members of the Ogun State chapter of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, have accused the National Working Committee of an alleged subversion of the results of the ward's ad hoc delegates Congress held across the 20 local government areas of the state. The members in their numbers stormed the state's party secretariat in the state's capital to register their displeasure over the development, which they said was taken to favor an influential member of the party in the state. Armed with placards with various inscriptions, members appealed to the national body of the party to do the needful in order to ensure justice, equity, and fairness, and to reposition the party for victory in the next general elections.
On Saturday, elections were held around 20 local governments in Ogun State, but the National Working Committee from Abuja accepted the results of the local government whose chairmen are loyal to Ladeku Kwadebutu and disregard the remaining. That is the main point. Where the leadership of a party is unfair and unjust, it is very, very dangerous for the party. In any case, the National Working Committee are trying to disregard the results of the Congress duly monitored by INEC. And they are trying to falsely announce the result of a small group of people who in any case, did not hold any Congress. If they hold a Congress, let them provide the video evidence. But there is a group who held the Congress, monitored by INEC, DSS, the police, and the civil defense. There is pictorial and video evidences for this. But there is another group who never held any Congress. And the National Working Committee is now trying to disregard the result of the well-monitored Congress and announce falsely the result of the other group who never had any evidence that elections were held.
Governor Samuel Ortom has challenged youth in the state to equip themselves with requisite knowledge on security and governance to be able to effectively handle leadership responsibly in the future. Our correspondent in Makurdi, Francis Ter, filed in this report presented from our studio.
The governor, who was represented by an administrative officer in the Office of the Special Advisor on Security, Taena Chiapin, said it was time for youth to be adequately educated on security matters to enable them to respond to such issues when the need arises.
It is really time to enlighten our youth on issues of security and also on issues of youth development. Youth development is something that must be done. I say must be done. Yes. Because you are leaders of tomorrow.
Commissioner for Youth and Sports Development, Barrister Taima Ngoa, represented by the Director of Youth Development, Michael Omanga, said the program provides an opportunity for youth to brainstorm and make contributions to national development.
Briefly, the Nigerian Youth Parliament is a program of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport Development in cooperation with the National Assembly, established to equip the young people with leadership and legislative skills, as well as to participate in decision making.
In its remarks, Speaker of the State House of Assembly and PDP consensus candidate, Honorable Titus Uba, represented by the Speaker, Benue State Youth Parliament, Rachel Tiona, disclosed that the House of Assembly has taken steps in the interest of youth in the state.
I want to say well done and kudos on organizing this town hall meeting and inviting us to deliberate. And this gives us a sense of belonging that, okay, our leaders want to listen to us, want to see what we have to bring to the table, and are ready to act on on our recommendations. So I want to also appreciate the office of the Speaker, House of Representatives, and also the office of the Minister of Youth and Sports, Mr. Sunday Barry.
Various speakers at the town hall meeting also advised the youth to avoid being over-dependent on the government and to use their talent and values to better their lives.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, has said that the ongoing investigation of a suspected drug baron has led to the discovery of more than 22 billion naira worth of tramadol. A statement by the NDLEA Director, Media and Advocacy, Femi Babafemi, in Abuja, states that the investigation led to how the suspect imported into Nigeria 2 containers containing 1,284 cartons of tramadol in October 2019 with a market value of over 22 billion naira. He said that the statement was to counter insinuations by some hirelings that the NDLEA had no evidence to pin a crime on the suspect, widely believed to be the chair of a group of firms. Some stakeholders in Edo State have insisted that the security architecture of the nation must be community-driven if the country must get out of the insecurity it's facing. This was the outcome of a one-day security summit organized by the Edo Security Network, a body inaugurated by the state government to help drive security at the grassroots level.
Edo State Security Network, their importance is felt in all communities across, not just of Biafra constituency, across Edo State. This is what we are clamoring for to decentralize the policing to various states, and the governor has graciously, further decentralized it to the local level. So community policing is very key. You can attest that to the fact that a lot of crime has been reduced drastically.
The people here, the states, should be responsible to take the lead in caring for those operators, which are the vigilantes. The vigilantes at the school, they are the ones carrying out the responsibility of the community policing at the state.
Security, as important as it is, must be community driven. Because the truth is that when we say community policing, vigilante should be community driven. I'm sure when everybody, all and sundry support, the vigilante will be more agile, they'll be more efficient, they'll be more effective.
I beg the Edo State government, not only the Edo State government, anybody can support the Edo Security Network. Please let them do, so that we have to encourage them, because they really suffered for us. They don't sleep while we are asleep.
The Nigerian Army has said that the gruesome murder of 2 soldiers by members of the proscribed Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, and its armed affiliate, Eastern Security Network, ESN, is callous and despicable. The report added that members of IPOB and ESN claimed responsibility for the murder of the 2 soldiers who were said to be traveling to Imo for their traditional marriage before their unfortunate demise. Army headquarters, in its reaction to the killing via a statement by the Director, Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Onyechukwu, said that the dastardly act, one too many, clearly portends the deep-seated hate, desperation and lawlessness with which foot soldiers of IPOB and ESN have been unleashing terror on the people. The prices of food and other commodities keep rocketing, daily, touching on the cost of living in Nigeria. Feel the pulse of the people on Street Views.
You expect seriously, we can't even explain, because in my place of work, the place I would normally pay 500, go and come back. That was 2014, 2015. Now I pay 1,200.
We just have to keep on going with it now. We just hope it gets better. So how we are coping is work harder, and that's just what we can do.
I'm into food business, so I know it's affecting a lot. Particularly trying to get customers, when you give them prices of stuff that we do, they complain that it's too expensive. But due to the constant increase in sales, in pricing, it's really affecting the business. For example, a bag of flour last year was going for about 10,000, but now it's going for like 22,000, 23,000, depending on where you get it.
When you look at the rate at which prices of commodities are going up, is very, very high. In fact, average Nigerians are finding it very difficult to cope. And we want government to do something as soon as possible before things get out of hand.
When I was coming now, I had a small issue with my car, and I had to get, I think the person that I wanted to let me fix it said I should get, what's it called? Jowl, ordinary jowl. Then we used to get it for like 1, 2 or thereabout. But when I bought now, it's 2.5. Now. You get, so everything, food, rent, everything.
That affected my daughter. Like my daughter likes berries a lot, and berries that I used to buy for 1,000, now it's 3,000. I can't afford to always buy berries for her, so it's affected in every. I don't even know what to say about it.
Still ahead, abortion rights opponents and supporters clash outside U.S. Supreme Court over bombshell draft leak. Details when we return.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamode Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamode Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Welcome back. You're still watching News Now on Plus TV Africa. Rescue workers are racing against the clock to save 8 miners who have been trapped for 2 weeks in a Canadian-operated mine in Burkina Faso. Traveling Mining Corps had announced that 8 miners, 6 from Burkina, a Zambian and a Tanzanian were missing following a flood underground at a zinc mine at Pakawa, 100 kilometers from the capital, Ouagadougou. Prime Minister Albert Ouedraogo, who visited the site at the weekend, blamed irresponsibility by those in charge of the mine and said that there would be an inquiry to find out who was responsible, as mine officials have not been allowed to leave the country in the meanwhile. Radical Islamist Shabab militants have killed several people in an attack on a military base of the African Union Peacekeeping Force in Somalia. A local military commander and witnesses allege that the pre-dawn attack targeted a base housing Burundian ATMIS soldiers near the village of Sil Baraf, 160 kilometers northeast of Mogadishu. The Al-Qaeda-linked Shabab, who have waged an insurgency against the Somali state for more than a decade, claimed responsibility for the attack in a statement. Meanwhile, Human Rights Network for Journalists, HRNJ, has warned against the increase of arrested journalists in Uganda on World Press Freedom Day. The HRNJ published last year a report recording some 131 cases of abuses against journalists, with 82 of the reported violations directly attributed to members of the Uganda police. The East African country has seen a series of crackdowns on those opposed to President Yoweri Museveni's rule, particularly around last year's election, with journalists attacked, lawyers jailed, vote monitors persecuted, and opposition leaders violently muzzled. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has pledged to improve conditions for the middle and poor classes in South Africa, saying he had heard the grievances of workers who booed him out on the May Day celebrations. Workers chased him out of the May Day celebrations under booing, chanting "Cyril must go" and demanding a pay rise at the Royal Bafokeng Stadium in Rustenburg North, as angry miners invaded the stage where he was due to speak. He was surrounded by police and his security details and was quickly ushered out of the arena. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that the Russian private paramilitary company Wagner is present in Mali and Libya on a commercial basis. Wagner, which is reputedly close to President Vladimir Putin, is accused of employing mercenaries who have committed abuses in Mali, Libya, and Syria. Lavrov, in an interview, reiterated Moscow's position that Wagner has nothing to do with the Russian state, and that he gave explanations to France about this when the French government became nervous because Wagner signed an agreement with the government of Mali for the provision of security services. The European Commission will present a plan later this month for how the European Union can replace 2/3 of its Russian gas used by the end of 2022. The bloc's energy policy chief, Kadri Simpson, speaking in European Parliament, said the EU had reached out to all major gas suppliers to help replace Russian gas with alternatives, and its plan would also replace gas use with renewable energy or through energy savings where possible. Head of the Foreign Policy Unit at the EU's Executive European Commission, Joseph Borrell, said in a tweet the new sanctions would target Moscow's oil industry, more Russian banks, and those responsible for disinformation.
Russia's war in Ukraine is a moment of urgency. Probably it's also a moment of truth for the European Union. We must build our European sovereignty. We must be more strategic, and we must forge our new energy independence.
Together, we can achieve so much more, and we can be an engine for European growth as a whole. So, when we're on the brink of such high adversity with the war in Ukraine, these type of strategic moves are even more important.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has addressed the Ukrainian parliament Verkhovna Rada via video link, receiving a standing ovation from Kyiv's parliament as he promised Ukraine will win in the war against Russia. The Prime Minister became the first Western leader to address the Ukrainian parliament since the start of the invasion and praised the courage of President Volodymyr Zelensky, MPs and civilians in their fight for their country.
Day after day, missiles and bombs continue to rain on the innocent people of Ukraine. And in the south and the east of your wonderful country, Putin continues with his grotesque and illegal campaign to take and hold Ukrainian soil. And his soldiers no longer have the excuse of not knowing what they are doing. They are committing war crimes, and their atrocities emerge wherever they are forced to retreat, as we've seen at Bucha, at Irpin, at Hostomel, and many other places. And we in the UK will do whatever we can to hold them to account for these war crimes.
Firefighters in Kharkiv were putting out a fire in a park in Ukraine's largest second city. The State Emergency Services, the SES, said the fire broke out in a park in central Kharkiv and was caused by Russian shelling. The location of the video was verified by buildings, pleasure rides, paths and benches in the park, which matched file photography from the location and satellite imagery. According to SES, a total of 7 fire engines were at the scene and eventually contained the blaze. Police used batons to break up a clash between Hindus and Muslims after Eid prayers in India's northwestern Jodhpur city. Media reports said the tension between the two groups began when a flag marking the birthday of Hindu god Parshuram was raised in Jodhpur's Jalori Gate, the same day as Muslims were celebrating Eid, the end of the holy fasting of Ramadan. In recent weeks, religious clashes have broken out between the majority Hindu and minority Muslim communities during religious processions in several parts of the country. Dozens of demonstrators have converged on the Supreme Court to express their support and opposition to a bombshell draft decision indicating the U.S. Supreme Court may overturn the landmark 1973 Roe v. Wade ruling that legalized abortion nationwide. Chanting "pro-life is a lie," "babies never choose to die," and beating drums, opponents of abortion rights outnumbered advocates. Democrats at the state and federal level and abortion rights activists looked for some way to head off the sweeping social change long sought by Republicans and religious conservatives.
I think it could be overturned, and then it's going to become a war on women's rights again, something that our mothers and grandmothers already did before, and I can't believe that they now have to live through this again, and that there might be back alley abortions again. Because abortions, it's never going to be banned. It's never going to go away. All they're doing now is just sacrificing women's health and the medical issue.
Up next, the Nigerian Communications Commission says blocking on leaked SIMs will safeguard online transactions. That's in business news after this short break.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thought and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you. So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station, Plus TV Africa, and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
And in business news, the Nigerian Communication Commission, NCC, has urged Nigerians to consider the benefit of linking their subscriber identification module cards to their national identification number NIN for the safety of their online transactions and services rather than the inconveniences of banning them from making calls. The Commission, which said that it blocked the unlinked SIMs for the safety of Nigerians involved in online transactions, including financial and educational online services and prevention of crimes and criminality by the security agencies, charged Nigerians to consider such benefits above inconveniences. The NCC added that the telecommunications service operators and the Commission were happy about the SIM registration linked to NIN, saying that it would secure telecommunication industries in Nigeria and bring about socioeconomic benefits to the country. Aviation Workers Union have expressed sorrow over the perennial poor condition of service in the sector, especially the ministry's reluctance to create new guidelines and upward adjustment of earnings in the last 9 years. The unions at the commemoration of the May 1st Labour Day in Lagos said major decisions were currently being deliberated to put an end to the waiting game and slavery of air transport workers. The unions had earlier notified airlines and the general public of total withdrawal of air travel services in February 2022 in protest against poor welfare and non-release of the agreed condition of service. The Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Ogbonnaya Ono, has said 2022 revised National Energy Policy, NEP, and National Energy Master Plan, NEMP, will impact the country's energy sector positively. Ono, who stated this while speaking to journalists after the document was approved by the Federal Executive Council, said the revised policy and master plan would enable Nigeria to take full advantage of available sources of energy in the country. He said that Nigeria has an abundance of crude oil, fossil fuels, and variants of renewable energy in commercial quantities, which he described as a good mix capable of improving the energy supply in the country. The Minister of State for Petroleum, Timipri Silva, has said that the federal government aims to transform Nigeria into a gas-powered economy by 2030 to address challenges around power generation through gas-powered plants. The minister disclosed this in Abuja at the 2022 public lecture under the theme Inclusive Energy Transition, Key Issues, Investment Opportunities and Barriers Towards Achieving the Decade of Gas Initiative in Nigeria. He said natural gas is a key resource for energy transition and that it has all the credentials to support Nigeria to meet its commitment in line with the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And that's all in business news. As the rest of the news continues, I am Jacinta Obiuku. Up next is entertainment news.
American reality TV star and entrepreneur Kim Kardashian rocked a dress worn by late actress and singer Marilyn Monroe at the Met Gala 2022. Sharing her excitement about wearing the historic piece, she wrote, "I am so honored to be wearing the iconic dress that Marilyn Monroe wore in 1962 to sing Happy Birthday to President John F. Kennedy." The Met Gala Ball, which traditionally holds every first Monday in May, returned as scheduled this year. Actor Bill Murray has finally addressed allegations of misconduct leveled against him. The actor, whose alleged inappropriate behavior is said to have led to suspension of production of Aziz Ansari's new film. Murray did not reveal the identity of the other person but said they are trying to make peace with each other. Following the alleged incident, Murray also admitted that the situation has been quite an education for him. Ghanaian actress Juliet Ibrahim has recounted how she was raped by one of her former ex-boyfriends. The movie star made this known during a chat with Trudy Gideonwo. The actress narrates how her former boyfriend, whose name she didn't expose, locked her up in his room till she was rescued by her sister. Ibrahim noted that when she confronted her ex-lover and told him what he did was rape, the latter insisted that they were in a relationship. The actress further advised women to report men who took advantage of them without their express permission, whether they were in a relationship or not. Former Big Brother Naija housemate Kafi Karim has been issued a final warning for taking part in the reality TV show. According to the panel, Kafi breached the standards of professional behavior in relation to orders and instruction and discreditable conduct. During the hearing, it was revealed that Karim asked for unpaid leave wages because she helped promote the Metropolitan Police.
And sport news is next.
Nigerian sprinter Favour Ofili ran a blistering 10.93 seconds in the women's 100 meters on Saturday at the LSU Invitational at the Benny Moore Track Stadium, Louisiana State University, in Baton Rouge, LA, to win the event and move up to number 8 on the all-time collegiate list. Ofili, is 19, set a new Nigerian national record in the 200 meters earlier this year, was running the 100 meters for the second straight meet. Ofili's 10.93 moves are up to number 4 as Nigeria's fastest female 200 meters runner, behind Blessing Okagbare, Chioma Ajunwa, and Gloria Alozie. With her feet, she's overtaken Mary Oniali, Damola Oshayomi, and Mercy Nku Gloria Asun. Also, she is now the number 5 in Africa, 5th fastest woman in the LSU history, 8th fastest in the collegiate history, and the time ranks her as the last 4th fastest wind legal time in the world this season.
And they're underway, and Illich just seem to stand up out of the athletes are looking around. Nope, they are running the race. Apologies, Favour Ofili. Felt that the Romanian athlete was looking to her inside to see what was going on, but Favour Ofili is eyes straight down the track. She's seen the Namibian athletes put those markers down. Ofili powering all the way to the line, 23.38, second place there.
Multiple Olympic and world champion Mo Farah said his elite track career could be over after he finished runner-up in the London 10,000 meters on Monday on his return to action. Farah, who completed the 5,000 and 10,000 meters double at the 2012 and 2016 Olympics, was racing for the first time since June after failing to qualify for last year's Tokyo Games. 39-year-old Britain finished a minute outside his best time at the London course in 2010 as he was out-sprinted by 26-year-old runner-up Ellis Cross, who finished 4 seconds ahead with a time of 28.40. Farah said he would definitely miss the World Championships in Eugene in July, but was non-committal when asked if he would run at the Commonwealth Games or European Championships in August. The Phoenix Suns won the first game of their Western Conference semi-final series against the Dallas Mavericks despite a 45-point haul from Mavs guard Luka Doncic. 23-year-old Slovenian added 12 rebounds and 8 assists in an impressive all-court display, but it was not enough to topple the side who had the best record in the regular season. DeAndre Ayton top scored for the home side with 25, with Devin Booker adding 23 in a 121-114 victory at the Footprint Center.
And the main news again. International Press Center stresses stakeholders' collaboration to safeguard press freedom as the world celebrates Press Freedom Day. NDLEA uncovers 22 billion naira worth of imported tramadol. And abortion rights opponents and supporters clash outside U.S. Supreme Court over bombshell draft leak. That's the news now. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I am Maureen Menong Ezigwe. Thanks for watching.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require a permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from Plus TV Africa.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Reading is an essential habit and a culture that must be developed. Nigerians are generally believed to have a poor reading culture. The role of government in promoting reading and equipping reading spaces and libraries in Nigeria cannot be underestimated. But first, we must look at the development of reading habits from the home and the role parents play in encouraging their children.
My parents, my mom used to be a teacher, so reading was obviously part of a curriculum. And then my father used to be a professor and is an author. So I started reading very, very early, and I started reading books that were higher than my age grade. I was reading African Writer series from age 7, age 8, and reading encyclopedias by that time. So obviously my parents had a huge part and encouraged that in me.
In the Nigerian book market, there's a high influx of foreign authors writing for children, but very few Nigerian authors telling relatable, homegrown Nigerian stories.
If you start out reading stories even to your baby, even before they're 1, and then as they get older, buy appropriate materials that are colorful, with easy to read words, and read with them. I think that helps.
Adedotun Enyade, a co-founder of Robin Heights, a leading bookstore in Nigeria, has tips for Nigerian authors and how they can improve on their work and get into the hearts of readers.
The story has to be good, right? If you're writing, whatever you're writing, if you're writing fiction, if you're writing non-fiction, it has to be really, really compelling, one. The next thing would be in terms of the packaging, right? People have gone past the era where you just take your books with just about any printer to print for you. I think, publishers, self-published authors as well, they need to invest in ensuring that the quality of the book, the final output is one that would, stack up with any book, published, elsewhere in the world. So that's really important. Then I think, what would be the most important tip for me to them would be just, they need to invest in marketing.
The book business, like any other business, is challenging.
If you ask anyone who's running the business in Nigeria, they will tell you capital, of course, right? It's, book selling is also, as with any other business, is also quite capital intensive. Getting to pay your rent, getting to actually buy the books and stock up your shelves when you have them. Hiring good people requires decent amount of capital. So I would say it's getting the startup funds to set up something, and then if you're looking to do it at scale like we're hoping to do, then it also requires you raising funding, which isn't readily available in commercial banks, right? I don't think a bank would say they want to give you a loan to set up a bookstore. They probably will be skeptical about the number of people who read. So for us, I think it's just I would say capital is at the top of a totem pole.
It is commendable that certain individuals and organizations are making concerted efforts to revive the reading culture in the country. The government should also redesign the school curriculum to incorporate more reading activities in primary and secondary schools.
This medal has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
When I start hearing the shoot of gun.
Every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
Yes, you're welcome back. This is Tea Time. When I say welcome back, because you guys must have missed us just from last night to this morning, because I missed you guys a lot. And yes, this is a show that brings you dope narrations, conversations, analysis of the biggest entertainment stories. And of course, I would do it on this show is vibes and inshallah. Of course, inshallah, still big shout out to all my Muslim brothers and sisters out there. Happy Eid Mubarak to you all. And yes, I never do this alone, and today I have an extremely elegant, exclusive, radiant, beautiful looking shorty with me. What's that, girl?
I'm good.
You're the type that wants to make me use the pickup line.
Okay, drop it.
I should drop it?
Yes.
I got my eyes on you. Are you a lizard? You're a nuisance to this world. What? Don't tell me. See, if I was a woman, any man that tells me that line,